Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is State Representative Chris Aniskovich.
Hi,
sir.
Peter.
Hi, Chris. How are you, pal?
Good, how are you?
What's new?
Love the new.
You love the new? You love
Start
it?
over there, that's over here.
Exactly.
Look at you.
See?
Must be
I
getting
get
a lot,
around.
Must be getting a lot of money here.
No. Oh, yeah, right? What's going on? Lots.
Well, it depends. At the town or the state? Where do we start?
I'll tell you what. Let's start at Pearson School.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Pearson, we've had, let's see, we have a whole bunch of meetings that have been scheduled for the month of September.
Okay.
So essentially we are in agreement to sell the property to Hope Partners, which is a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And Zenolith, which is going to be the other group and organization that's involved with the purchase of the building. So the development of the building.
Right.
We had a meeting last week where they came in and they talked to the council again about what their plan is. They gave us a rendering, kind of just an oversight of how it's going to look and what it's going to look like. So it's going to be senior housing. That's what it's going to be.
All right.
And I think the reason the town went that way is because since the building is historic,
Right.
every part of that building, even with the additions that were in the 50s, anything over 50 years is considered historical. Okay. So the whole building's historical.
Right.
So in order for a nonprofit to get historical tax credits, they have to keep a portion of the building intact. So we were lucky enough to keep the gymnasium.
Right.
So the town will lease back the gymnasium, and then we'll have that space available to us to use for a senior center. So that's going to be something that we're going to discuss. The final kind of everything that goes along with that we don't know yet, but the discussions were always that it'd be some sort of senior center. So we have that, and then that would be at the front entrance of the building. Okay. So the main entrance, when you walk right from the street, that would be the area that the town would have access to, and it would be a separate entrance and exit from the apartments for the senior housing. So there's also going to be an addition on the building. So when you face the building, there's going to be an addition to the right.
Okay.
So there'll be that'll come into play there, and just an overall redevelopment of the property. And it's something I think that obviously there's housing needs that we have. Senior housing, a little bit different as far as the age restrictions that they'll have on that, but a lot of the building will be historic, and the building itself will kind of remain what it looks like. So there's the outside and the facade will remain the same. There'll be some issues with new windows, but you actually have to go through historical approval of that because you don't want to change the dynamic. You can't really change the vision of the building itself if you want to get historical tax credits, which is what their developer will use.
How long is this all going to take?
Oh gosh.
Who knows?
So we can go into a purchase and sales agreement, closing probably somewhere they say in August of 2026.
Okay.
And then at that point they'll start all the development. So it's basically a 3 to 5 year sort of time frame.
Gotcha.
From the point that the building is finished, then we will start getting some tax revenue from the development of the building. But it's good. It's a long process. It's going to take a long time. I know there's a lot of talk, and people are sort of not upset, but they're concerned about the church next door. We have food for all behind that. So during construction, just making sure that they still have the access to that. Right. And there's an easement on that property now for the church.
Oh, is that?
And they're going to keep it so that there'll be spaces allotted to the church. So 30 spaces for the church, 50 spaces for unit owners, and then 10 for the town. So that's kind of how the parking will kind of configure in that whole, development. But as long as the church still they've agreed to allow the church, obviously, their spaces as well.
Now, is the gazebo going to stay?
The gazebo stays in the front.
Okay.
So we will maintain that as a town. So the gazebo in the front, and then the front lawn, and then obviously the area for the senior center.
Right.
And so we don't know. So that's going to be kind of more discussions as we go as a town to find out exactly what they're going to put in there and what services we'll offer. But front buildings, there are also maybe some food drop off. So the estuary that they use, the annex now, might be able to use that as well. So those discussions will be ongoing as we go through this process.
Cool.
But it's just the timing now. They did all the testing.
Yep.
So they did all of that. So that's done. So they know what they need for septic. They know, what the ground is like. So they're good there. The next steps are just the financing that they're going to have to go for, which is the tax credits take a long time.
Right.
So they'll be working on that now.
Now, as far as tax credits, what can you get from
Well, that's the developer, so they'll deal with that. So the town itself, that has nothing to do with us. That's all the
Gotcha.
developer. They will take care of that. The project overall, they estimated the project to be about $17 million.
All right.
That's what we talked about at the meeting the other night. So, you know, that's on them to deal with the financing.
Right.
So going forward, we have a meeting on the 25th of September.
Okay.
So this has to go to a town meeting for a vote. So there will be that meeting where this will be put to the citizens of the town, and we'll do a town meeting and a town vote for the sale. But basically, the meeting that we had last week was to let the public know what they were doing and give them some visual renderings. Also a meeting with planning and zoning, so that they'll have to go through some permitting processes with them.
Nice.
And then the town also did an ordinance related to the taxes that we'll collect on that building. So the structure is, once the building is done, so they won't pay any taxes for probably 2 years. And then 30 years thereafter, they will pay $500 per unit.
Okay.
And then that's the taxes that the town will collect. So overall, the town will collect some taxes, will be relieved of the maintenance of the building for the time being, but then we also will incur some costs as it relates to whatever we would like to do with the building internally.
Nice. Now, what's going on with the town? What's going on with the town?
That's the biggest thing.
Well,
Other than that, a lot of development. I mean, we have another project right down the street from there, or actually up the street, across from the police station. There's townhouses that are going in that property next to the 360 Federal Credit Union.
yeah.
So they had some changes that they wanted to go through, so there's a public hearing on that as well, so they'll have to go through that. And back to Pearson, there'll be another public hearing on October 7th, I want to say, that they'll have to go to planning and zoning to get some permitting issues resolved. So there just seems to be a lot of development going on in town. The issue, obviously, that everybody knows is everybody wants affordable housing, but these are private developments. So the affordability of this all doesn't really necessarily become affordable. So, you know, there's not much we can do. We don't own the properties. So the developers coming in, they're developing. You know we need housing on the shoreline, and throughout the state, the issue is housing. We have that problem, you know, across the state. And unfortunately, when it's private development, you know, then they're for profit. The affordability concept of that becomes difficult to phase in. So some of the developments are coming in and having some units that are affordable, but you can't necessarily force them to do that. You know, when they come in, we would like to see that, but unfortunately, if we don't own the property and we're not the developer of the property, there's sometimes not much we can do.
No. Now, what's going on up at Big Y?
I don't know. They did some work. I don't know. So
they did something.
And then it seems like they planted grass again, so I don't know. You know, the contact, I guess, you know, the developer has contact with the town manager's office, I would assume. But, you know, from the beginning, when we initially approved the development, I was on planning and zoning when that all occurred. So I served on planning and zoning before I was on the council. And it was always you know, he wanted to make sure that he had leases in hand before he did any development. So he wasn't going to build a building until, you know, he had a lease in hand for somebody to move into that spot. Don't know kind of what was going on there. You know, I don't know what kind of conversations may or may not have been had with the town manager's office, but for right now, we haven't heard anything on the council side as far as anything that may be going in there.
How are things going on the town council?
Good. I mean, you know, it's a shift over from what it was. You know, but, you know, at the end of the day, if we all work together as far as what we want in the best interest of the town, you know, that's what's on the forefront. That's how, you know, what we're there to do, and we need to make sure that we continue to work that path to make sure that any decisions we're making are in the best interest of the town. You know, so it's, you know, new town manager, new town council, obviously everybody getting to know each other again and figure out kind of the path of the new town manager, where we want to head. And budget season's right around the corner. I mean, we'll start dealing with budget very soon. You know, last time we were having workshops probably in October. Just to kind of get an overview of where we are. You know, we have a new finance director, so there's a lot of new nuances throughout the whole process. So it should be interesting. You know, when you bring new people, they have new ideas, new ways of doing things. You know, I've been sitting on the council for 5 years now, so we were used to a process of the former town manager. With a new town manager, you know, what may or may not change, we don't know. So we'll just have to kind of figure that out as we go. But again, ultimately at the end of the day, you know, we hope that we're going to make those decisions that, you know, put the town in the best interest, in the best way to succeed. And that's what we're hoping to do.
Now, you just brought up a point. We do have a new town manager.
Yeah,
What's she like?
from East Haven. So far so good. I mean,
Okay.
we're working together, and again, you learn as you go. You know, the process is, that we went through for the hiring. It was a difficult process. There wasn't many former town managers that were looking for positions. So we're starting out, with someone that hasn't been a town manager before.
Right.
So coming in, and at the end of the day, it's the path is we have a charter.
Right.
So the job is, and then the functions of that town manager are spelled out in our charter. So, how we do things is based upon whatever our charter says it is. So, that's the starting point of it. And, she'll bring new stuff to the town, very, doing wonderful things so far with the public and engaging the public and having conversations and making sure that we get things out to the public so that they're aware of what's going on. Good and bad. Sometimes you put stuff out and then you get more from the public, and then, I don't like that. So so you got to be careful what you put out. But she's doing a good job, and we hope that it'll continue down this path. Anytime something new comes, there's changes.
Right.
There's a learning curve and there's a learning process, and everybody just has to get used to something different.
Right.
So I think this budget season will be different, something that we'll have to work through and get used to. But at the end of the day, it's, as long as we are 7 members working at a table, working together, we'll do what we can to, make sure that the town's in the best position to succeed.
Now, you said we also have a new finance director in town.
Yep, Bob started, I don't know how long ago he started, so
Okay.
he brings something new as well. Last budget season, our previous finance director resigned.
Yep.
So there was a kind of an area and a time where we didn't have one, so it was kind of difficult. Previous town manager was taking on a lot of those responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we have a new one, again, learning curve again. So he's coming in, and he has his way of doing things that he's going to bring to the council, so that we need to understand how he's going to operate and what he's going to, what he wants to bring to us, and how we'll kind of work through that. So learning curve there as well, but I mean, sometimes change is good.
All right. Would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back.
For decades, I've taught you everything I know. How to safely build a fire, and how to control the flames. But I can only teach wildfire prevention. Only you can prevent wildfires.
Come on in, come on in.
Welcome to Sure Things.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show.
Hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with State Representative Chris Aniskovich. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome, Chris. All right, so we're going to talk about state stuff, but before we do, rumor has it, it's a re-election year for you.
It is.
All right,
The fun has begun.
the fun has begun.
Yes.
Considering the fun has begun, it's a re-election year for you.
Yep.
How was session? How have you enjoyed?
Session was good.
How have you
Yeah.
enjoyed being state rep?
I love it. I love
Yeah?
being up there. I live in, engaging in what happens up there and being part of the process.
Right.
As a first-term legislator, I was lucky enough that I kind of knew kind of the process of things. Having a brother who was up there for a long time, you kind
yeah.
of learn how things work and operate. I knew going in what to expect. I ran last time on one simple slogan, which was people, not politics.
Right.
I put the people first because that's what mattered. So regardless of political affiliation, you're there to represent your district. Right. When I went up there, that's what I promised to do, and that's what I did. I mean, I got a voting record now. Was able to generate bonding for every one of my communities. We were able to get $500,000 for Vista Life Innovations
Okay.
to redo the outside of their building over there. $300,000 for Killingworth to help their town buildings, to repair some of their town buildings, and then Clinton got $250,000 for the town beach. So
Nice.
those are all bonding projects that that I worked on and did the best I can to get that, and that's what you're there for. you're there to engage, to make sure you're there to support your community, and when they come and ask you for certain things, that you're there to fight for it. And that's what I promised to do when I ran last time, and that's what I'll continue to do. I loved being up there. I enjoyed, what I did. I was on commerce, banking, and general law.
Yeah.
So three committees that kind of fell into what I enjoy doing. Commerce, small businesses. My district obviously is full of small businesses, mom and pops.
Right.
And you need to be there to support them. They are the fabric of our community, and we need to be there to support them. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed everything about it, and looking forward to this re-election campaign season. And just being out there. There'll be a debate in October 7th. We'll have a debate at the Morgan School. So looking forward to that. And that's what it's about: getting out, meeting people, door knocking, going to events, being visible, making sure that they know that you're there and you're able to contact you regardless of your party affiliation. And again, I don't ask what your party is when you call, but I call you back. I return your call, return your emails. That was one of the things that I'm passionate about, to make sure that people knew that I was approachable, and that if they had a question, they would get a response. Whether it's good or bad, I would respond.
Exactly. Now, only people in your district can vote for you, correct?
Correct. So Killingworth, Clinton, and Westbrook.
Okay.
Yep. So it's about 18,000 voters in that district. So as state reps, that's normally where you're at, 18 to 20,000 voters. Love the community, love being out there, and hopefully I'll continue along that path.
All right, let's hunker down.
Nope.
You ready?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Electric rates and electric bills. Let's talk about them.
Oh, boy.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody hears it, sees it, reads about it. And again, I didn't shy away from it. People called, people talked, made sure that I responded to their emails, their phone calls, text messages. There was a lot of conversations that were had over the past couple months.
Right.
There's a lot of finger pointing. The one thing about politics is that when you're up in the legislature, you get a lot of finger pointing. And at the end of the day, there was a law from 2017. There was an executive order by the governor. I don't care. The problem that we face right now, and the result of these actions, were that people pay more money on their benefits charge.
Yep.
Right? That's the problem. So that's the problem right now, what we're facing. How we got here, we can't fix how we got here. All we can fix is that, can we go into a special session and talk about a conversation about how we may be able to help people, financially, to give them some relief. That's all they want. I represent a community where there's a 55 plus community.
Yes.
They're on fixed incomes. I've had and fielded many calls that they can't afford to pay that electric bill. $20 to somebody may not be a lot, but to somebody else it may be a lot.
Right.
And as an elected official, I took it upon myself to be somebody that was vocal, to be a voice, to be able to know that they can talk to somebody and will continue to fight. This isn't, we make it political, but it's not political.
Right.
This is the livelihood of people, whether they can or they can't pay whatever they may have out there. And that's what we need to talk about. That's what the special session was for. It's not something that's new. Legislature, we knew about it in February. We knew these things were going to happen. The rate hike on September 1st, that's another problem. So in the midst of all of this, we have another rate hike.
Right.
So there's issues with PURA, the governor's office, there's, Republicans, Democrats. You get, this whole big picture of everybody pointing fingers everywhere and not sitting at a table and having a conversation.
Right.
And for me personally, that's what I care about, And we have to look at things that way sometimes. You have to set aside the political, agendas and just talk about the fact on how we will help the people that we were elected to help.
Right. Now, how did we get here? As far as
so there was two things that related to the benefits charge. 25% of that public benefits charge relates to a moratorium by executive order that the governor put on shutoffs. So during COVID, for 4 years, there was a moratorium. Eversource could not shut off anybody's electricity. Okay, that expired, and that's part of what we're paying back. All right. The other part of it is a 2017 bill, and then this was, again, the infighting. It was a Republican ask on the floor that was brought to the floor. Okay, and the bill was to get into negotiations with Millstone to keep it open, because there was talk of them moving or closing. I wasn't there in 2017, so I'm not privy to all the information.
Right.
I do understand it was a bill that was put forth. It had bipartisan approval. It couldn't have been approved without the support of the Democrats as well as Republicans.
All right.
Democrats had the majority. Now, the talk is that, well, it was a bad bill, the Republicans shouldn't put it forth. Well, at the end of the day, it was approved with bipartisan support, and if it was that bad of a bill, the governor certainly could have vetoed it.
Right.
So that being said, that's 75% of the bill. So getting into the weeds on all of this to say how we should be providing energy, sustainable energy to the people in Connecticut, that's a longer conversation. That conversation will go on and should go on and continue to go on to the next session.
Right.
Okay, so what we can do in order to help the citizens of our state.
Yes.
Right. So that's the thing that we need to discuss going into next session. Right now, my issue is just, why can't we just talk about how we can provide relief?
Right.
And the relief does, and so, you got an aging community sometimes, so they can't afford it. The other thing is in my district is small businesses. You have small businesses, you have mom and pop, stores.
Yeah.
If their electricity bill goes up, what's going to happen?
Right.
They're going to have to charge more money for what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, what's going to happen? People are going to pay more money.
Right.
So it's a trickle-down effect where, it will affect everybody. And I think those are some of the things, that's how I look at it. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily how everybody looks at it.
No.
But when I'm looking at something and feeling, why would I be, proactive and supportive of a special session, that would be the reason.
That's it.
I'm helping people in my district understanding what they're going through. And the only way that we can help them is to provide a little bit of relief.
Right.
The governor moratorium, on shutoffs, that gets paid back in 10 months. So that was about $80 million that gets paid back in 10 months.
Okay.
So there's talk of maybe in January when people go back into session, we'll talk about it. That's still 2, 3, 4 months away.
Right.
By the time we do anything, that'd probably, at that point, maybe be paid off. People are struggling now. It's not just energy, it's everything. Right. Cost of food. Mm-hmm. I mean, so it's daycare. It's everything on anybody's financial, picture in their own home. And again, we're elected officials. We're elected by the public. And so if you're elected, you're there to do, take that responsibility. And my responsibility, I do take, strongly, and feel that if I'm there to be able to help and support and do something we can, then why not do it? So, but again, you need everybody to come together. And unfortunately, politics gets ugly, and I've always run on people, not politics, but sometimes politics gets involved, and
Right.
we're too busy arguing and pointing fingers about whose fault it is.
Right.
And it's not to say I don't care, like I said before, but honestly, I want to get to where we need to be.
Right.
How we got here, there's nothing we can do. The bill's passed, so that bill is there. The moratorium and the shutoff, that's done. Those are things that are done. How, coming together as a group and as a legislator, as legislation, and just talk about it. Can we do something? Maybe
Sure.
not. But have a conversation. Let the public know that you're going to do something for them and show them that you will support them.
Right.
To sit back and just say, well, it won't make that much of a big deal. Well, who's to say?
Yeah, right.
Right? I mean, if it's $50, then it's $50. So we have to look at things, I think, differently in that, but that's me. The way I look at things and the way I kind of figure out in my head, which isn't always the way that everybody does.
Right.
So I'll just continue to do what I do, continue to be vocal about it, continue to say that I support, the need for a special session, and we'll see what happens down the road.
Now, could you go into special session to take this up?
We could have, yeah. So at this point, they would have to call for a special session, and both sides would have to agree, and then we can go in and have the conversation.
You think it's going to happen?
No, I don't think it's going to happen.
No?
No. And I think that, because, again, when you're going back and forth on things, the other conversations about, well, how can we change the
Right.
renewable energies? Well, that's a bigger discussion.
Yeah.
Immediate help, immediate relief is basically what people are concerned about. People aren't calling me up and saying, should we get different renewables so that we can have, better options and better opportunities and not pay as much for our energy?
Right.
Yes, absolutely. But they're not calling me about that. They're calling me about and saying, I can't afford to pay my bill, what can I do? And unfortunately, my answer has to be an honest answer of, I don't know what you can do.
Right.
Because there's not many options available at this point. And people are frustrated, they're angry, they're upset, and I feel that pain. When people call me and you're in a 55 plus community and you're on fixed income, what do you tell them? You have to tell them, sorry, I don't know what else to tell them at some point. And you feel bad for them, and you feel sometimes the pain that they feel.
Right.
Because their stories are real. These aren't, they're not, these aren't They're not making the stories up. These
No.
are legit, honest, factual stories about the struggles these people are facing. So you do what you can. You hope for the best and see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's probably not fun being.
It's the ugly part of politics.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, but again, at the end of the day, I'm there to do that.
Right.
I was elected to do that. This is my decision to be involved in that. And yes, you know
Right.
what? I mean, this part-time job that we have as legislators
Yeah,
is not a part-time job.
No.
It's a full-time job. We continue to do things, whether we're up for re-election that year or not. We continue to do that, and that's the part of this, this job, which I don't consider a job, but it's part of what I do that I enjoy. I enjoy being out and talking to the public, talking to my constituents, letting them tell me, things that they would like fixed, and then you bring that back and you try to make a difference, and that's what you have to continue to do. If you don't like doing it, you should not
yeah,
do it.
yeah, right, and yeah, right. And it's
But it's good.
And from your political background that sometimes it can be fun. Sometimes
Yep.
it's got to.
Right, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
it could be, and it gets frustrating, and I'm sure it's, and again, so I know the frustration the public has, but it's also the frustration that we have.
Right.
And listen, I don't think any party's exempt from what they're hearing and what they're seeing and what they're trying to do. But unfortunately, it's got to be the powers that be. There's leadership that gets involved, and they're the ones that need to agree, to the special session, and we're left with that decision, and we have to honor that decision, whether we like it or not.
Chris Aniskovich, we're out of time. See you soon.
Yes, Peter.
See you soon, bud.
Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Chris Aniskovich, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks. Good night. We'll see you next time.